Yes, good morning to one and all present here. Today we are here about to start our leadership lab today. And thank you so much to our chief guest, our college management, and all the students who are present even on a Sunday. So, can we start Niveditya? So, I'd like to call upon Niveditya to start the uh, welcome address.
A very good morning to one and all present here. I am pleased to stand before you to render the welcome speech on this beautiful occasion. We are all overwhelmed of joy to witness this function. First of all, I would like to invite and thank our chief guest, Mr. Arun Kumar Rayappan, HR Lead, State Streets for HCL Services Coimbatore. Even in his busy schedule, he has come to motivate and guide us. We welcome you, sir. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our chairman, Mr. Kadar Ganapati Appan, our founder and managing director, Dr. Parkavi, and our director, Mr. Rahul Ramachandran, for giving me this opportunity. I also extend my warm welcome to all who have gathered here to witness this beautiful day. Thank you all. Now, I would like to give a brief introduction about our chief guest. Our chief guest, Mr. Arun Kumar Rayappan, completed his higher secondary education at Sainik School, Amaravati Nagar. He was graduated from Dr. S.N.S. Rajalakshmi College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore, and he pursued his post-graduation from ITM Business School, Chennai. He also holds a postgraduate diploma in personal management and industrial relations. He loves interacting with students and providing career guidance to them. He has visited over 60 B schools and colleges across Chennai and Coimbatore to deliver guest lectures. He's fond of listening to melodies and watching tennis. He started his career at HCL Technologies in 2008 as a management trainee and is currently the HR lead for State Street HCL Services, Coimbatore Division, with 2,300 employees. He is a distinguished performer for 11 consecutive years. He is one amongst the few HCLites across the globe to be part of the HCL Hall of Famers. He is most passionate about introducing new HR interventions and interacting with employees as a part of employee first philosophy. It's really great to hear about you, sir. Once again, we welcome you to this leadership lab, sir. Over to you, Ranjit, sir.
Thank you so much, Nivedita. Thank you so much for the guest introduction and the welcome address. And I welcome you, Mr. Arunji. Thank you so much for coming here, even in your busy schedule. I know how HRs are so busy in this quarantine, and thank you so much for coming here. Can we start, Mr. Arun?
Yes, Ranjit, we can start. Yes.
Yeah, sure. So, guys, you can ask your questions at the end of the session.
So thanks for the introduction, Niveditya. Dear ISSMites, wishing you all a very happy morning. I know it's a difficult day to attend a session like this on a Sunday as such. Even I had gone through such, situations in my MBA career days. And wishing you all a very warm vanakkam. Firstly, thanks to Ranjit for coordinating and corresponding with me to transact and organize this session. Thank you, Ranjit, to begin the session. So students, over the session, I would take this opportunity to tell you all as to what I have learned through my career being a management graduate till date. You may consume these experiences, inculcate, and implement as appropriate as you feel. Well, I have classified this session into two cycles that a management graduate or else any graduate would actually go through in the corporate life. Firstly, the earlier life cycle. Next slide, you may go to the next slide here. Yeah. So this slides will talk about two life cycles as such, the early life cycle and the medieval life cycle. The early life cycle would actually talk about the instances in the early stages at the corporate uh, for anyone up to level of 3 to 4 years. And the medieval life cycle would talk about the time frame thereafter. So the early life cycle of a management graduate. So when you or anyone joins an organization, you may move to the next slide. Yep. So you will always have to ensure you to learn the basics. So after you join any organization, ensure you are humble enough and start learning the basics of whatever your job deems or requires you to do. The same is applicable for any business that you might want to establish in your career. Rather than joining a corporate, you might start your own business. The same thing is applicable to anyone who is actually willing to start a business of their own also. Next slide. So do not hesitate to dirty your hands. For instance, guys, during the early days of my career, I had to take photocopies for my manager, do the filing work for all the new joiners, and do the paper correction for the candidates who appear for written tests during the recruitment drives that we have conducted. Assume you are into marketing field and you are all set to sell a submersible agriculture pump. So you cannot go with a coat, you cannot go with an overcoat and a suit, and you cannot talk to the farmer with your filthy English. You need to touch them mentally. Yes. You will have to remove your shoes, sit with them in the floor, and talk to them in their very own language that they understand. Hence, do not hesitate to dirty your hands in the beginning of your career, for it is the most important phase of anyone's life. Career life is all about. Next slide. So you will go through a lot of turmoils. Understand that not all of us will have a cakewalk in our career landscape. I joined HCL in the year 2008, and that was the year the recession had badly stuck and hit the globe, and I was not given a role which I actually aspired for. As a management trainee, I was supposed to be donning a role that was much better. However, as I have iterated earlier, I was made to take photocopies and did that process. When those photocopier machines used to fail, I had to dirty my hands, remove the cartridge, replace, and still continue with the work. I was swapped from the recruitment team to the onboarding team and then to hire for technical support officers in one point in time. I was myself handling employee queries over the phone through the shared services role. So that was, in fact, a trivial and a difficult time wherein the economy was hit hard and I had only to survive. I only had to survive at that point in time because I didn't have any other options as such. So you will have to learn to survive, only survive at some point in time in your career, which you will have to take it appropriately. Next slide. So people always say, they always ask you to go with the flow. Yes. I had to go through different roles, which was not to my liking in the initial stages of my career. But then, those were the tough days. I had to simply survive and learn. Learn and survive for the time being because the situation was such. So people advised me to go with the flow. Yes, going with the flow was a good feel, but not always. If I continue to go with the flow, after some point in time, as per many of the advices, we may never know if there would be a waterfall where we may drown in the waterfall and then die eventually. So I recall always the words from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, when you are the anvil, bear. So then you have to bear certain points in time and learn to survive with whatever it is and go with the flow. You will have to be that anvil, bearing all the tough circumstances that you go through in your life, both professionally and personally. But then when you are the hammer, when you have your time, you will actually have to hit. So this is the time period where I had felt I had survived enough. I had traveled enough with the flow. Let me not go through the flow anymore, but decide to reach a safe bank on any side and start hitting. In a corporate environment, you would have your opportunities to speak out yourselves and prove your caliber. Hence, never ever be hesitant to hit when you have an opportunity to speak out and hit the right spots. Next slide. So this is what, guys, I meant with not going with the flow always. You can just, be unique in your own self. Next slide. So you will have to be unique. So this is the time period in your life, corporate life or your professional life, wherein you have had enough of, going with the flow and then speaking out. Now it's an opportunity for you to be unique. Organizations always encourage and give room to people to think unique and do unique things. Assume you go to your railway station, guys, to take a ticket. You find there are 3 counters, and you would always want to choose the counter which is of lesser numbers, right? That's where we think of not following the crowd or wanting to be unique. When in such an instance, we always choose not to follow the crowd, we always end up following the crowd in many points in our life. So we, for instance, we take up an engineering as a study. The whole of the students, whole bunch of students only do engineering. We aspire to land up in an IT job only because all the others tend to do that. So you will have to think unique and foster unique ideas. So ideas only sell. So typical example of this is Ola. You would have all known about Ola. So Ola doesn't own a single taxi in their name, but they're one of the largest taxi operators in the world. So that is a unique idea that the organizations have brought up to sell their uniqueness. So being the best is always great. I am the number one, you can always say that, but being unique is always greater because you will only be the one. So do not hesitate to be unique. Do not hesitate to rise up to the right time, at the right time. So next slide here. So next thing is that in your corporate life, you will have a bunch of people, being at the same level, being at the same designation, likewise. So you will have to be cautious enough not to compare yourself with others. I did this mistake when I always used to compare myself as to, one of the other HR, she used to be very good in doing employee engagement in her own ways, in her own, style as such. However, I was always thinking, having a skeptical thought, how will I be like her? How will I be, respected like her? But I was forgetting about my own strengths. So please do not compare yourself with others in the corporate culture or anywhere in the personal life as well, guys. So this is one of the important points that you will always have to keep a tab during your journey, both professionally and personally. You are your own competitor. So you will have to ensure whatever you do today, you will have to do that better the next day and then the better the next day. So you be your own competitors, do not look out. You will have to be like a horse wherein you don't look left and right, you keep moving forward in straight direction. So comparison, I would say is the killer of happiness. For instance, you would have known about Tata Motors acquiring JLR, Jaguar Land Rover. Quite some time ago. It's been quite some years ago. So Tata Motors was into a loss post acquiring JLR. But then they were innovating their models in such a way that all their new launches were designed with JLR's interiors, keeping the Indian roads in mind, Indian mindset in the mind. The result was that all their new launches, from an Nexa to a Harrier or to an Ultros, it has been that are slowly capturing the market share in their respective states, and their stocks have gone up 100% post COVID. So do not compare yourself with others, guys. And I believe you would have also learned that Ambassador is coming back to the market again. And you will see the surge in the growth of the people who will go and buy Ambassador because they were they were comparing themselves with others and they had to eventually fall. They in fact forgot their uniqueness, the unique selling point. The realization helps, and then you will know the practicality after the car is being launched. The next slide. So this is what I meant. There is no comparison between the sun and the moon. They shine when it's their time. So you will have your own time to shine at the right time, and you will have to shine when it is required, and you will go up in your life. Next slide. So this is about no idea is a bad idea. So you will have a lot of ideas. For example, being HRs, can I do this intervention in the recruitment process? Can I do this intervention in the onboarding process or in the employee life cycle? So from the entry to exit, you will have a lot of opportunities to do interventions. So when I sit with my team and ask them to give some ideas as to how to innovate and make the employees life cycle, life or the life cycle pretty happy in one point of the aspect of what we are intending to improvise. We do get a lot of ideas. So we should not back off from any ideas as such. Just think through, guys. I have an employee in the office. I will just say a practical example that happened. Who runs a footwear shop. He invited me to the inauguration of the shop, and I had been there. I was so happy with his thoughtfulness of having the shoes in different types of stands and the positioning of the varieties, like the sandals in one side, loafers, Crocs, and the shoes in different sizes and different, positioning. After around a quarter, when we met accidentally in a coffee break, I happened to ask him about the shop and the business. So sad to hear, and he was very sad to say that he wasn't running it successfully. I was taken aback of surprise. In spite of all the positioning, the varieties, and the design stands that he actually had at his shop, why was it not moving as expected? Was it that some kind of a branding was not there, or I was just wondering as to what it is? He just said the name. Some of them had hinted to him that the name has to be changed because he was running his shop in his own name. His name was Madan, and Madan Shuland was the shop's name. And some of them proposed, why can't he have you that shop, change the shop's name as existing name to his wife's name? And there was a person who accidentally told this guy, who was also part of the discussion as such. So he actually like told it to keep it pretty plain and simple, which will make people to think about and coming to your shop. Why can't you keep the name as Serupu Kadai? That's all. The name was only Serupu Kadai, and close the conversation. I didn't realize that this guy Madan, he took it so seriously and renamed his shop as Serupu Kadai, and he has started branding his shop's name across various social media within his locality, and his business has become stable and is on the growth path right now. So he never, I never thought this is an idea that can be implemented, but any idea is not a bad idea, guys. So it can be a great idea if you think differently, dream big, and commit to being, seeing it realized. So even after you enter, you were entered into any organization or you venture into any business of your own, you need to make yourself visible with the kind of a work that you do so that people will start recognizing you. And it is all possible only with ideas. You can come up with your own ideas and you can actually like do your own startups. So a lot of people have started doing that in the recent past, especially the youth. The next slide, guys. So do not underestimate yourself at any point in your life. I mean, you tend to get this kind of a feeling during any point in life, again, both personally and professionally. So you would always come across the situations. I had, in fact, come across this situation a lot of time. That am I the right person? Am I in at par with expectations? Am I at par with that other person who is at my level? Likewise. So wherein you will always feel that you are down and you cannot take this pressure anymore, or you would want to quit. All of you will definitely go through this situation. The learning that I had got is that there is the most critical time wherein you would have to have more belief in your own self. So you would have to approach your mentors whom you feel are comfortable sharing and seeking advice. And at this juncture, I would want to highlight that your director, the director of ISSM, Dr. Parkavi, has been a mentor right from my college days until date to me. She is still mentoring me, and I always approach her whenever I feel I'm stuck up, both in my personal and professional career. So there have been instances wherein I had told that I wanted to quit HCL and move on, and she has told me that when you are getting a role at the right and appropriate time, don't move on, stick to this, learn, and then move on. So I stuck to that, and that is one of the reasons for me to stay at HCL. So sometimes you would feel that the reality is something different, but actually it's something different. So never ever underestimate yourself. So it is not what it is, but you will feel like it is like this. Next slide here. So I would want to tell about a history of a failed successful person. So you may wonder, how come there is something about a failed successful person? Yes. So this failed successful person was born in a middle class family in UK. Because of his hard work, he got admission in Oxford University. During these days at Oxford, he started taking interest towards acting and got enrolled into a comedy group. But he couldn't perform well due to his speaking disorder. So he went on to try his luck with acting, But because of the stammering, a lot of TV shows actually rejected him. So it is all about self-belief, guys. It is about one's self-belief. Yes, you can go to the next slide here. So despite all his hardships, he still believed in himself. Soon he realized that he could speak fluently. Whenever he played some character, he said in one of the interview that I found that when I played a character other than myself, the stammering disappeared. But still, he was getting rejected because he didn't have a beautiful face and a heroic body that usually all heroes have as such. But then he proved everyone wrong and started his own show, which became a global success. By looking at the picture, I believe all of you would have known as to who he is. Yes, I'm happy if you were able to guess it in the beginning itself when I was suggesting. I mean, when I was iterating about this person. Yes, he is Mr. Bean. His actual name is Rowan Atkinson, and today he's one of the famous celebrities of all times and has a net worth of $132 million. So his story teaches us that for success, you don't need a beautiful face, a heroic body, a voice without stammer, or a fluent English, but then patience and perseverance with relentless belief in your own self, specifically on at the tough times. You will have to keep moving on. The next slide. So the medieval life cycle. So this cycle comes after you having been into your corporate life, after passing out your college. You would have gone through your business for 3 to 4 years, kind of. So until now, we have seen through what you as a management graduate would go through. By now, as I told you, you would have completed 3 to 5 years in your individual contributor role. So you would have been assigned some tasks, you would have been doing it as per the expectation from your managers, you would have been building your ideas of your own self. You were independent, you were your own selves. But then the next stage in life comes here. You would be aspiring for the middle level leadership roles. So until now, you were an individual contributor. Now that you might be given a team to handle, and then you will have to handle different types of people with different mentalities. At this stage, you will have a complete paradigm shift from what you would have been doing so far to what you are aspiring to do. And we need to be very much careful, pretty much careful and cautious about this particular stage. Yes, as a management graduate, you will have to introspect yourself always. So I was always taught from the books, and I'm sure you would have also been doing the same right now, that if you want to evaluate your own selves and to be aware of your own selves, you will have to do a SWOT analysis. Yes, it talks about the successes, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But then, guys, the reality will teach you that there is something that is more inherent than the SWOT analysis in itself. So this Johari window I had drawn, so I have learned this through one of the management programs that I had attended pretty recently. Yes, it was an eye-opener for me, wherein it was taught that this Johari window has a 4 quadrants as such. So open, hidden, blind spots, and unknown. So on the one side, it is about your own self. The other side, it is about others. So what does it mean to be open? It is just that what both your own self and the others will know about you in both your professional and your personal career. So that is about being open. So what is about hidden? So hidden is nothing but something that is being known about you, something what you know about you and others do not know about you. So this is also not a danger zone, guys. So being open, again, everyone knows about you, even you know about yourself. Being unknown, so what you as well as others do not know about you. Even this is not a danger zone because neither of you know about what you are actually capable of. The blind spots are the actual red line areas wherein the red line I would like to highlight what you do not know about you and others know about you. So if in case something you do not know about you and others get to know about you, these are the blind spots that you will have to actually work upon. You would have to ensure that you will have to correct your blind spots, as that would actually be taken as an opportunity against you at any time. Remember, guys, you are no more individual contributors in this point in time. You have come to a level of, a middle level management graduate, a middle level leadership level you're going to acquire, and there will be a lot of politics that will happen across, and you would have to do it cautiously to ensure we avoid being tampered of unnecessarily, as all of us by some means will have to go through the organizational politics. So be cautious and careful about the blind spots that you will have to work upon. So the next slide. Yes. So now that you work upon your blind spots, I had earlier talked to you about starting. Starting to survive. To start surviving. And now it is ironical at this juncture that I'm going to say you'll have to stop surviving and start living. Yes. So if you're living your life, all your life, just to pay off your bills until you die, or is it that you wanted to really relish and enjoy life? Yes, guys. We are at a stage of no more survival. You would have attained adequate subject matter expertise by now, and you are at a point wherein you would have to establish a niche, a clear niche for yourself, either in the market or in your organization. We are not here to survive anymore, but to live a life appropriately. If your intention is to only survive, but by what we are today, we will never live our lives fully. At least at this juncture, you will have to start thinking to actually living. Start living and not stop surviving as such. So we live this one routine of a day for 75 years, and we call it life. No, guys, that's not life. If you're still thinking why you have been sent here, and if you're still juggling with the concept of why you are here, you haven't lived the life yet. We always work with a sense of insecure feel. Yes, the insecure feel in the form of fear, a fear that will actually make an abnormal psychosis run through us every single time. It is only about survival. What if I lose the job? What if I don't have money to survive? What if I have no job but I cannot pay my credit card bills? So if you continue to do the above, you'll end up working hard, making some money, and you do it for yourself. That's not going to be life. Only if you try coming out of your comfort zones, I reiterate, you'll have to come out of your comfort zones and think individually and independently to inculcate your ideas. You become a leader. And this is the stage where a leader is born in each of our minds. Yes, guys. So it is a transformation, a complete transitioning from being an individual contributor role to becoming a middle level management guy in your own organization. So you will have to start becoming leaders because you will have to manage teams, and the teams, every individual in your team will have to look up to you whenever they face with a trivial situation, and you will have to make your decisions and ensure you start living, you stop surviving anymore. You can go to the next slide. So here I would want to talk about how to be a great leader. Yes. So when I was approached by ISSM to have a session with the students, I was told this is a leadership lab. Yes, I can say I have not become a complete leader yet, but I am pursuing myself towards that goal. So we all learn. We all learn from our own mistakes, and we all learn from other successes. So here is my perspective of a leader whom I have learned, I have heard, studied and analyzed as how should one should be a great leader. So I had myself gone through two such experiences in my career. The first one, as I have told you earlier, was that when I had passed out of my MBA during 2008 and I was hired at HCL, the recession struck the global economy. I am sure this might well be one of the case studies in your curriculum. And now a similar situation has arisen across the globe, where there have been a lot of job losses at this tough situation, and every such organization's identity about the care that they have for their employees were very much visible. Yes, a true leader's caliber is tested only when during such tough times, and it's all about how they make critical decisions through these trivial situations. Yes, I actually recall a CEO who was owning a technology company in the United States. His name was Charlie Kim. So I read through this one of his management books, wherein he questions that he always makes a point that, if you come across hard times in your family, would we ever consider laying off one of our children, one of our family members? We would never do it, right? So why do we consider laying off people inside our organizations? He also implemented an innovative policy of permanent employment in his organization. So at his organization, you cannot get fired for performance issue or for any kind of an issue that you happen to come across. In fact, if you have issues, they will actually coach you and they will give you support, just like we would do that with one of our children who actually happened to come home with a bad score from the school. It's just like how our parents would have embraced us, consoled us after a failure or a loss, and motivated us to keep going forward, and they have been with us. Yes, great leaders would never sacrifice the people to save the numbers. They would sooner sacrifice the numbers to save the people. So, being at a position of a leader, if you are unable to gauge and predict as to what is the nature and course of the economy and your organization, the first set of people who should be fired from the organization are not the employees but the leaders themselves. Yes, guys. So, being a leader, you will have to stay focused. You will have to proactively project the future, predict the future, and ensure that you take appropriate steps. If you are not able to do that, there is no point in you being a leader, and there is no way that you will actually have to, check out the employees. You should be the first person to be checked out of any organization. So that's where, as I told you earlier, you will have to be a good leader, and the good become the better, and the better leaders become the great leaders. In fact, next slide. So I've got a case study wherein it is about the learnings. So in tough times, as I told you, people work for the leaders, not for themselves. You would have actually, felt it. You would have actually gone through those times indirectly or directly in your student's life as well so far. So a lot of times through my interactions with the employees during our meetings, we call those as skip meetings. Skip meetings is nothing that we skip the intermediate levels, the reporting managers, then the reporting managers, all those levels will be skipped. The HRs will directly interact with the employees to ascertain and understand as to what is the actual crux, what is actually happening, to do some intervention to help the employees. So during all such skip meetings, what I have experienced that there are two types of teams. One, a happy team, and the other, the unhappy teams. A happy manager always makes a happy team. He brings in the positivity across the team. He balances the team in the right sense, and he ensures the people are taken care of and they're happy about themselves. Like you would have always gone through your school days and the college days, wherein you would have a favorite professor, your favorite teacher or a lecturer, wherein you would have always felt that yes, this period I like the most because he always happens to make us pretty interested, make us to be interested, make the lessons to be interesting, and with the way of his interactions as such. So out of my experience, I wanted to highlight a case study, which was one of the best interventions that I would call it as. So an incident happened wherein there was a huge error in one of the teams which was made, and all these employees had to work on weekends. 3 consecutive weekends to close the backlogs that happened owing to this error. What happened here is the people from this happy team willingly came forward to work. Yes, the team containing the manager who was very happy. So they logged in even before their manager could, and they ensured that they were working as usual to complete their deliverables on time. Whereas it was the opposite case with the unhappy team. The manager had to follow up with each individuals if they have logged in or not and frequently monitor if they had completed the deliverables as such. Because this has been the major difference across between both the teams. So having said the above reality, if we have to dive deep to study and understand this particular case, we would know that the employees from both the teams didn't want to work on weekends. That is the fact as such. However, the employees from the happy team worked for their manager because of the care and concern that they had on their manager. And here is the question, guys. Why? Why did they actually do that? The answer is that they wanted to showcase that to the manager that how good and happy they are as a team working under him, and they didn't want to put him down when there was a need. So the inference that I got to understand from the above incident is that though people are not interested to work on the weekends, to work sorry guys, to work on the weekends, they had liked and loved to work for their own manager and not for their own selves. So this is the point wherein you as a leader or a manager, you will have to strike a balance between what you can do as a manager, what you cannot do as a manager. There is another point which you would have analyzed with the other case studies from the HR perspective that people do not leave the organizations whereas they leave their managers. So if you take up the if in case like you would have gone through the attrition study from a HR perspective about the organizations and what do they actually do, it is just that the people, they don't leave because they don't like the organizations, but they leave because they don't like their managers, the way they have been treated, the way they have been conducted, and that's the major reason for the attrition. And this is what is happening in practicality as well. So what does it state here? When we sit back and do our attrition analysis, we find that, as I told you, the teams that have the maximum attrition in their organization are the ones who have worked under the not so happy or unhappy teams, and they just leave because they do not like their managers. So guys, this is a learning for all of us. Please ensure you strike a right balance. Until we are individual contributors, we expect our managers to do something good for us, but then we forget the same good that we need to give it back when we become managers and forget the basics. So please ensure you do not forget the basics. So go back to the next slide. So while we become leaders through this, tough phase, we need to ensure that we don't have to forget the basics. So a lot of my friends discuss about the word happiness during our conversations, and in most of the instances, I never hear them to be happy. Some of them actually say that, I have got a very good home, I have built a very good home, but still they wish that they could lie on their mother's lap once again, as the costly pillows do not provide them comfort anymore. So these are few learnings from the leaderships. So my other friend who happens to be an AVP in Ireland, he tells me that whenever I call him, he tells me that I wish I could do homework with my father once again, as the laptop screen never smiles at him when he finishes his office reports. So guys, you would be at a stage where you would feel that you do not have enough time during this phase of becoming a middle level leader. Understand that you should be more careful and cautious and not to lose the relationships which you have had all these years. So please take some time to spend with your family, parents and friends, and do remember that these are the souls who are responsible for you and who have constructed you so much throughout your life. I am not boasting about myself here, but I call all my teachers on the Teachers' Day and I wish them and seek their blessings. And yesterday happened to be the Teachers' Day as well, coincidentally, guys. I passed out of my PGDM in 2008, where your director and my mentor, Dr. Bhargavi, was also working. She has been the most inspiring personality who supported me to take up HR as a career. Whether we are in correspondence through the years or not, I still call her on all the Teachers' Day and I wish her. I have never missed any of these 12 years to wish her and seek her blessings. Remember, guys, the universe conspires. All that you do would reflect on you. The blessings and the wishes of all the teachers, parents, and friends and family members would work wonders on you during such tough times, and you would always relish it. I had done it and I had relished it. I'm sure you would also go through this phase and you will also relish these tough times. So during all these tough times, you will feel that you are losers. Have I lost something? Am I the right person to keep winning? Will I win? All these questions will actually come up. So remember, guys, we are all winners by birth. We are all born winners. I mean, you don't have to answer this question that I'm going to ask you right now, but then think within yourselves. Here's the question. How many of you guys think that you are born winners? You are winners by birth in itself. I will take a pause here to give you a moment for you to think if you are winners by birth. I'm sure a lot of you by now would have different answers in your mind. Well, I would want to tell you one final Kutti story here. You can go to the next slide here. Yes. This Kutti story is, I would rather not call it a story, but then it's about every individual's life, how we have evaluated our own selves and the reason for our birth. Are we winners by birth? Yes. The fact about each of our lives and our birth. Here goes the fact, guys. The fact about all our life remains to be that we are all made up of cells, and all these cells put together form a DNA which is unique to all of us. The unique DNA apparently is from the gene of our parents. All our births are determined by the fusion. You can go to the next slide here. Yes, as I told you, it is determined by the fusion of the sperm from our fathers with the ovum of our mothers. So in the process of this formation of life and fusion, 1.7 billion number of sperms from our father's side. I repeat, guys, 1.7 billion sperms from our father's side compete against each other to fuse with only one ovum of our mother. Hence, the sperm carrying each of our DNA, the unique DNA, has competed against 1.7 billion minus 1 number of sperms to fuse with our mother's ovum, and finally, a life is being given and each of us are born. With this fact, it is very well proven that each one of us are born winners, each one of us are winners by birth in itself. So the God has made you a born winner, and it is all in our hands to continue the winning spirit throughout our life by living our lives fully and in pursuit of happiness. Next slide here. Yes. So guys, you are now you have now become a middle level manager. You have now become a leader. Slowly you are getting into the leadership ladder as such. But then here is when all of us as leaders lose our happiness. Pretty trivial, I understand. But then you will always have to search for the pursuit of happiness. As I told you earlier, if you continue to work in routine for your life, you will end up only working hard, making some money, and you will do it for your own selves. That's not life it's all about. It's about you going out, seek for people who need your help, and you make their lives better. And that's when you become a true leader. You become that sponge which can actually absorb all the negativity, and you become that person who can emit beautiful and positive vibrations across. Those vibes, when you realize that you have changed someone's life, and because of you, this person didn't give up. Yes, that is the day when you become the true leader and when you live, when you start living. Next slide here. Yes, guys. So live your life fully. So in this leadership, tenuity, you will not be able to live your life fully, and you will always have to conspicuously remember that you are not living for the clock, but you will have to live your life by a compass. Yes, I have just shared my journey from being a management graduate way back in 2008 till being a HR lead right now. I know this is very little experience, but I would urge you people not to take things as a burden. I would request you to take up things one at a time and strike off your negatives one by one. Yes, our ex-captain, the captain of the Indian cricket team, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, always says, whenever the news reporters question him as to what are your plans to win the World Cup, or what are your plans to win this this Champions Trophy, whatever it is, he always says that I don't think about winning the World Cup. I just think about winning the first match and then proceeding on to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals. So he would always love to take it up one by one. So I would always, urge and suggest you to take up your life that way, take off one by one, and strike off one by one, guys. And there is one more thing that I have learned with Mahendra Singh, with the same Mahendra Singh Dhoni's words. As such, you'll have to take up both winning and losing the same way. I would want to recall a quote that he always used to say to the news reporters whenever they question him, how do you feel losing this match? He says a simple answer. I have a dog at my home, and whenever I visit my home, whether I lose the game or win the game, the dog comes back to him the same compassion and licks his hand, the same compassion and love that it always used to. So it doesn't differentiate between whether you have lost the match today or whether you have won the match today. It is all about the balance, striking the right balance.